Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sandra Aneno and this is #everythingmama, a project that I am using to sensitize, inspire and impact those around me. Now if you are watching me for the absolute very first time, hi, I'm so happy to have you with me and I hope you stick around. In fact, if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of the lovely content that I share on this channel. Now this week would be episode 2 of our series Never Known the Love of a Father, which is basically centered around the concept of fatherlessness, children who grow up in a fatherless home. What do they go through? What are the effects that they suffer as a result of growing up fatherlessness? This week I have a lovely guest, Mr. Ali Kubanabas. Guys, I cannot wait for you to watch. This is a gentleman whose purpose, passion and ministry is solely for the boy child. Somebody say amen. I'll be honest, like when you walk around on social media, books, everybody kind of fights for the girl child, my child. But how about the boy child? Who is looking out for him? Who is guiding him? Who is directing him? Who is making sure that he turns into an honorable man, a respectful man, a man of valor, a man who submits to authority both within the home and outside setting? Mr. Ali Kubanabas is here to talk to you about this. Don't go away, we'll be right back. Welcome back from that break. Before we meet Mr. Ali Kubanabas, I wanted to give a short backstory as to how I met him. I met him more than a year ago when I enrolled a nephew of mine in a camp that he runs over here in Kampala. It's called Boys to Men Camp, and the purpose of the camp is to teach young boys values, to teach them things like honor, respect, sexual purity, how to be hardworking, the disciplines of submission, the disciplines of hard work, the things that right now I think fathers or parents as a whole, because I'm a parent as well, things that perhaps we are sleeping on or we are taking for granted, but it starts with us, the parents. You cannot expect your child to practice things that you have not taught them. So when my nephew came back from that camp, and I asked him the question, what did you learn? My. He had like a whole notebook of things that he had learned, seeds that had been sown into him by the ministry of Mr. Ali Kubanabas. So the purpose of this episode is basically to highlight that. What are the roles of fathers? What can we do as parents? What can we do as society to invest in the boy child? Because, you know, broken children make even more broken adults. So what can we do now to ensure that the boy child is guided and directed along the right paths in order to turn into responsible, honorable, respectful, and submissive men? Welcome back, everybody. My name is Sandra Aneno, but you already know that. With me is Mr. Ali Kubanabas. And I wanted to share with you a few things that I think link him as the best guest for this topic, Never Known the Love of a Father. One, I know that his ministry, his purpose and his passion, him and his wife are for the boy child, for children. He's a mentor, he mentors children. I met him when I enrolled my nephew for a camp called Boys to Men. So as you can see, his heart and his passion is already for children, but more so for the boy child. So Mr. Barnabas, welcome so much to Everything Mama.
Right.
I'm so happy to have you with me. And I'm expectant, they should be expectant to hear what you have to say because I'm convinced that it is golden information.
Wow.
Yes.
It's such an honor and pleasure to be here on your show. Most importantly, to talk about something which I have a passion.
Yes.
And I'm so passionate about it. Well, those are my names that you introduced me with. I'm married to Christine. Ali, who is 17 years running. And God has blessed us with 5 children. 3 boys and 2 girls. We adopted a boy. Biologically, we have 4. So, also a culture tourism consultant by profession. But then God called me out to reach out to the boy child, because it's God who qualifies. And so I found myself in that space of reaching out to the boy child. So it's one thing I've been doing for the last 5 years. I run an NGO, or I lead an NGO as a director. It's called Rehoboth International Ministries. And in this NGO, well, basically what we do is reach out to the boy child through our programs. We run about 5 programs.
Okay.
Yes, there's one called Mothers Raising Sons.
Yes.
And basically this one, we reach out to the boy child through the mother. So the mother, there's some things that a mother, especially single mothers, that we call out the boy through their mothers, that the mothers can groom them to be real men. Then there's another one, Grant, which you brought in your nephew, it's called Boys to Men.
Yes.
And then we have Man Enough. Also, we reach out to the men in the city. We've taken so far about 400 men through the program called Man Enough. And we call the responsible masculinity out of these men. And then we have the strand of 3. It's just for married couples. Also, it's just conflict resolution. We got to realize friends around us were divorcing and the kind of things. So my wife and I wrote a book. It's also a program experienced by couples. It's called The Strand of 3. That God is the strand, the 3rd strand. So it's the only way that you can keep your marriage. I also, and then the other program is, of course, there is intentional dad. Intentional dad. But you know, there are 4. I'll be speaking about it later. There are 5 types of fathers, but the intentional dad is the key father there. That he should be out there as an intentional dad. So I also do a TV show on LTV called Man Enough Talk Show. So I host men, I host women. I should host you one of these days.
You should.
Yes. So basically that's what I do. I'm a mentor, life coach. Yes, and I also I'm an advocate for the boy child. So basically that's what I do, and I'm honored to be.
And I'm also honored to have you, and I cannot wait for you to specifically tackle the boy child.
Right.
Because in the introduction that I gave to you, I did some gumbo about you. I was very honest because I think it's the truth. We have a lot of people out there who are fighting for the girl child.
Absolutely.
But who is fighting for the boy child? Who is making sure that as girls are being impacted, boys are being impacted and inspired as well?
Right.
So I wrote down a few questions that I thought you'd be perfect to answer.
Right.
So one was, I wanted you to share your opinion on what fatherlessness is, and what does it look like, and would you say that we are currently living in a fatherless generation?
Yes, fatherlessness is a huge one. I know for every listener out there, anybody watching us, everyone has an attachment to a father. And every child, boy or girl, grows up wanting to be claimed. They want to belong. They want a father. And truth be told, a father is the highest office. There's a proverb, a Chinese proverb, which says that it's difficult to lead a family. No, it's easy to lead a nation, and it's very difficult to lead a family.
Yes.
Why? Because of the father. The father, there's a lot of responsibilities. The highest office is fatherhood. And my men that I always take through the program, I always tell them, fatherhood, if you choose to walk in there, because it's a stage of manhood. A man's stage of growth is he starts as a boy,
yes.
He becomes a man, he becomes a husband, he becomes a father, which is the highest calling. And then from a father, you become an elder in the community. And those offices call for responsibility. So when going back to your question, yes, we live in a fatherless generation. Yes, we do. And it comes from a place of our forefathers. And truth be told, the woman has been empowered, but no one has told the men to live with empowered women. No one has empowered the men to live with empowered women. So there's that huge gap. And I can talk about this all again, but we live in a broken society where we see that our fathers never told us how to do. I always tell my wife that me being an intentional father is by God's grace, because my father never told me how to treat a woman, how to live a family. He had 3 wives, I'd also have upgraded and had 5 wives.
Yeah.
You know, but somehow God visited me and I chose to be an intentional father. So we have a huge gap in fatherhood. And this is globally. I've lived in Europe for over a decade. And it's the same thing. You go everywhere, it's just a global thing, virus or cancer that you talk about. And you find that fathers, I like a gentleman who is called Ken Confield. He says, a wounded father passes on a broken baton to his son.
That's very true.
Because we find that our fathers never told us. We had there are about 5 types of fathers. And we find that these fathers have passed on the woundedness into their son. And their sons also
Pass it on.
pass it
Like
on.
a cycle.
So it's a cycle. We find that there are fathers out there who are really not committed. But yes, back to the boy child, I would like to say that the only thing that God can use to make a man and a father is a boy. So it's one thing that the fact that we live in a broken society, if fathers don't get it right with their sons, then you'll find that we shall have still a cycle. People snatching the phones. If you go to betting shops, who do you see that? Boys.
Yeah.
Who are raping the girls? It's still the boys. Who are dropping out of school? Who are in the rehabilitation center?
Yeah.
There's a rehabilitation center where I usually take the boys after the camp. We go and just listen to the stories of these boys. And some of them as young as 8 years and they have killed. But 90% of these are boys. And where are the fathers to mentor this? Yeah, so there's a huge gap of fatherhood. It's a global, but in Uganda it's real. And
it's on the rise.
It's on the rise, yes. So I have some statistics that I could be sharing.
Please.
Yeah, and so you find that there's a gap of mentorship and fatherhood. And we have about 5 types of fathers, principally. And these fathers, you find that one is a passive father. A passive father is a father who's not intentional, he's just there. He could even be present, but he's not present. He's a passive father. He sees things, he just ignores. He says,
the kids will tell you, I have my father, but I might as well not have him.
Absolutely. So we have passive fathers, and they leave their sons wounded because their sons are thirsty for that. I want more. Yes, affection, affirmation, but it's not there. It's not there. Then we have, of course, controlling fathers. A father who controls, he knows, and children know when he walks through the doors, they're all finding their way to run into their
Those are the fathers who grew up with in the 90s. When you hear his back.
Yes. So we have those types of fathers, very controlling. He wants, it's his highway or no way. So we have those kind of fathers. Then of course we have abusive fathers, fathers who beat up the children. They are quite vulgar. They assault. They assault them. So they assault them. So those are the kind of fathers also we have. We have the abusive fathers. Those fathers leave a young man wounded, so that when he becomes a father, he also passes it on to the same thing. Yeah. Then we have the absentee fathers. An absentee father is one who's distanced, he's away, he's doing his own stuff. At times he would come and be reading even a newspaper. Children are really asking out for daddy, but he's busy reading his newspaper or listening to news. He's just absent. He's not available at all. So we have those type of fathers. Then the last father is the intentional father, who is the ideal.
Yes.
I want to believe that I'm one of those fathers.
Yes, you are.
Yes, I was talking about the intentional father. And I'm saying I think I'm one of those fathers. An intentional father is there for his children, and you're in their space. For me, when my children are born, I'm always there, right from the theater. All our children have come through C-section. Our first daughter was born when I was in London, and this doctor told me, why can't you come if you want to bond with your daughter and cut the cord? And so
You cut the cord?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
All my children I cut the cord.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's how intentional I've been. From the time they're born, I am always in their space. I homeschool my children through the SEE program, and I'm always there for them. My daughter, who's just turned 13, I've done the rite of passage for her.
Yes.
I've given her a purity ring just for her to bring it back when she weds and she gets married. So there are those things that parents out there, fathers out there, that you can make a difference in your children's life. Let it be your son, let it be your daughter. But most importantly for the boy child. Why? Because if you only get the boy child in the right space, then you have changed the generation. You'll have broken the cycle of people dropping out, boys dropping out of school, boys going to prison, committing suicide, name it. You'd have broken the cycle if you just bring the boy child in the right place. Why? Because we see even in the scripture, there's a gentleman called Jacob. He was a supplanter, a thief. He stole his twin brothers' birthright and did all sorts of things. But when he got into the right space, we see even God changing his name from Jacob, the supplanter, to Israel. And we see a nation out of it. So it's when you get the boy in the right space, we see a generation coming out of it. So it's very important for fathers to be intentional, especially with the boy child.
So speaking of which, you're talking about fathers being intentional. So I want to go on the other side of the coin and ask you to talk about what happens to children when fathers are not intentional. What are some of the effects that they are going to suffer emotionally, psychologically, physically, mentally?
I think before I come to that, we live in a broken society, as I said earlier, and there's so many things happening. Right now in our country, in Uganda, the president of Uganda, the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, they came up with a roadmap, and they're calling it the Year of the Family, because they realized family is being hit. And the president signed a paper in 2016 and took the roadmap of how to bring this issue of the family institution in order.
Yes.
So the government has since extended the Year of the Family from 2018, 2019 and 2020 this year. However, the jigs of the matter are the statistics, which I wanted to just clear briefly. That 30% of the households in Uganda are led by women.
True.
Yeah, which takes me to a place where are the men, where are the fathers?
Because 30% is a big percentage.
It's a big percentage. Then 42% of adults population is single, widowed, separated or divorced. So that takes you back to the place of how broken the society is. 28% of the cases of defilement and rape cases, which were the highest in 2016, according to the police crime report, which takes me back to the place of men and boys are not being in the right place. So all these statistics show you that there is a broken society.
Yes.
And because if the boy is not mentored well by an intentional father, these are the things we see. 24% of the child, there's 24% of child marriages and pregnancies, teenage pregnancies.
Have you seen what's been happening in lockdown?
Yes, it has been a total mess because of these things of early pregnancies, and then because fathers are not there, a single mother is trying to take these young girls who are full of energy into a home, and still they'll break the rules until they hard.
And it's not that they are not doing their best.
They do their best. But 30% of households being led by women, it speaks volumes. So basically the main problem affecting family institution is the high rate of disintegration and the fragmentation of families before and after marriage. So these things affect the boy child in a very big way. And so there's also one bit of, you asked a question of how can it be, how can the positive side be on the other side of the coin.
Yes.
If boys are not well groomed, mentored, we see a lot of things happening. And we see these men and fathers becoming what I call not becoming the 5 P's, which is the ideal that a man should be. And these 5 P's are very, very important.
Yes.
And maybe before I come to the 5 P's, there's also statistics here about fatherhood, which was written by, which was also done in 2017 by an informal survey by Idea Factory, a couple of years just ago from now. It says that 10% in Uganda, 10% of fathers are unaware of the existence of children they have fathered.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 10% of fathers. 40% of fathers are aware of the existence of the children they have fathered, but either ignore them or are not involved in their lives. And we see this is a freelance. Fathers are not committed.
Yeah.
Then also 45% of fathers have limited involvement in the lives of their children. They know he's there or she's there.
Is that by choice?
Now it comes to a place of fatherhood. If you have not been mentored into responsibility,
then you're not going to
pass it on. Then you will also just become freelance. My father did it. After all, my father was my hero. I knew growing up he was my hero and he didn't do it. I think this is the norm.
So
you find that, yes. So because of the fatherlessness of generation after generation, like I say, Ken Canfield says, a wounded father said, passed on a broken baton to his son. So it still goes, the cycle goes on, just because the father was not fathered well. Then it goes on to say that 5% of the fathers are actively involved, only 5%.
That's really small, guys.
Yeah.
That's really
involved in the lives of their children. And then 5% of fathers accept their children in Uganda, and 45 deny. That's the bit of the summary.
And then the 5% goes to that claiming that
exactly.
that you're my son,
you're my child, and you affirm, the son. Every child grows knowing that they want to be claimed, they want to be identified. Identity is a big thing, especially for the boy child, because if he doesn't belong, then he feels. I told you we adopted a young man, and right now he was performing so poorly in school because he had no father, he had no mother. He was just a brilliant young man, but when we adopted him and we had found him, we tell him you're the great man, you're going to do well. He's flying. Why? Because there's a family, there's a father figure speaking into his life. So the 5 P's are very, very important for us to see that product out of, that every father out there, if you can do these 5 P's, then we can make a difference in the lives of our children. And number 1 is you have to be, you have to provide. Now, provision is, with COVID-19, there could be a predicament that you're not in a job, you're not working. But guess what? It's a calling upon our lives that we have to provide for our families. You can still make it. And you can do this with your partner. I remember not working for 1 year, and my wife, I was just living on the savings, but my wife was working and she was bringing bread on the table. But it was a place of us agreeing and knowing that I'm having an input and effort to bring the bread on the table. So provision is very important. The second P is protect. You have to protect your family. Why? Because through protection, it could not be just getting a stick and chasing boys around home because you have girls, but still even protecting your children as they go to school, your wife and family. Basically, everybody under your...
Even from the information out there,
set
boundaries.
Absolutely.
Keep your children safe.
Exactly. So protection is 360. It's all around life.
Yes.
And then also you have to be present as a man.
Ooh.
Now, presence is very important. I always tell my men that we are hustlers. We go out to look for a job or whatever, and we spend 70% of the time at the job places. Take for instance, you are employed. But guess what? Let predicament hit or you fall sick and you're on a hospital bed. The 30% of the time you spend with your people at home who you love, they're the ones who be at bedside. The 70% of the people that you're working for, your employer, if you're lucky, they will send you a get well soon card. The best they can do, I mean, if your illness is long, they'll replace you.
That's true.
They'll replace you. So your presence matters. Being there for your family. Meet each other halfway. They do 50-50, but meet your obligations of being there. Be present in your family's life. I mean, your children's life. Be present.
So we were talking about the 5 P's, and we had just finished the 3rd P, which is fathers being present. Our 4th P now.
Our 4th P is that fathers should be priests. A father out there, you can lead your family into a family altar. You can create a family altar and lead your people, the people God has given you to lead, because you're a leader at the end of the day. So you need people. You need to lead them well, especially spiritually. And you can say, you don't need to go to a Bible college or be
become a pastor.
No, you can just round up your people before going to bed and say, guys, let's pray. Let's thank God that we have come to the close of the day. In the morning, maybe if you're in a rush to go to work, guys, let's just pray for 1 minute. Thank God that you have woken up. Some people don't wake up alive. So you're the priest. So lead your people well in that area of prayer. And then the 4th P is the prophet, that you are a prophet. What a prophet does is that a prophet sees ahead of time. If you're renting, you're telling your people that in 5 years' time you shall be out of rent. You see me, that small business I'm starting, in 6 years' time, this is how I want it to be.
Yes.
So your projections ahead of time, because you're seeing ahead of time with your family. Every man in a home should be visionary. Prophecy is just about visionary. You need to see ahead of time and tell your children where you're going. Your wife. I tell men who always come and say, I want to get married. And I'm like, yes. So where are you taking this girl? And yes, what's your vision? Why are you taking her? And it's like, no, God will bless us. God blesses us. You need to tell her that in 5 years' time, this is what I want us to be. Have a projection. So it's very important as a man to have those 5 P's.
Yes. And
when you do this, believe me, as a man, you leave a worthwhile legacy as a father to your children. And the best thing you can do as a father, if you're staying with your wife, the best thing you can do is leave a worthwhile legacy for your children by loving on their mom, and that's the beauty you can do. And practicing these 5 P's, which are very possible by every man.
So very quickly, the 5 P's are provide, protect, be present, be a priest, and be a prophet.
And it's true that we live in a world where things are falling apart, and this comes from us as men out there could maybe be feeling me and saying, you don't know what I'm going through. I've been divorced, I'm going through a separation, my wife has just left me, my girlfriend has left me, it was a one-night stand and something happened, and here I am, I'm a father or my dad. I'm not ready for it. I want to tell you that we live in a broken world, and you can start again. And we have this Adamic nature that all of us, that's why Christ came. But Adam fell. When I was growing up, I used to think it is Eve who fell, but it was Adam. Because he was given the mandate to run his home. And the Bible says in Genesis 3:6 that he was standing next to Eve when the serpent was talking to his wife. I always tell the guys, my friends, that, will you be happy if another man is riding your wife?
Right in front of you.
Right in front of you. But Adam somehow left it roll, and he should have said, look, don't talk to my wife, talk to me.
Yes.
What's your problem? But he let it flow. So it's one thing I always tell the men, that it's one thing that we fail. So the Adamic nature is there, that we fall short of God's glory, but we can start again. That's why Christ comes to redeem the world. And I wanted to just leave a small scripture here for us to just read and to reflect on. This is the blueprint. That's what the Bible says, that wives submit to your husbands. This was Paul writing to the Colossians, and he was quite specific on he touched on every area of the family, including husbands. He says, wives, submit to your husbands as it is fitting in the Lord. Husbands, love your wives. He told us to love the wives and do not be embittered against them. Then says, children, obey your parents. If there's any child there listening or watching us, obey your parents in everything, for this is pleasing to the Lord. Fathers, goes on to say, fathers, these are the fathers we're talking to today, do not provoke your children so they will not become disheartened. And this is now the types of fathers we've been talking about. If you're abusive, you're controlling, you're passive, you dishearten them because they are looking out, they are thirsty. How can my father farm me? How can my father do this? And you not them. So this is scripture is telling us, reminding us that we should be people who are Bible-centered, and in this way we walk right with the Lord. So it's very, very important that we do the things.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Barnabas, for being with us, for sharing with us. I've personally learned, and I'm hoping to carry these things with me. For everybody who is watching, the men out there, if you're a boy, you're a teenager, you're a man, I hope that you have learned and picked up something. Like he said, this is an issue that we are facing, but it is not too late for us to turn it around.
Right.
We can still have fathers who are present, fathers who are providing, fathers who are prophesying and being priests in their homes.
Right.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Yes.
Yes, and maybe for the fathers out there, that you could be still wondering, how can I figure this out? Maybe in the middle of it, I'm 65, my children are grown. Yes, you can still turn it around. I always like the story of Colonel Sanders, the owner of KFC. He passed on. But at the age of 65, he had tried so many times to do something and never worked. But at the age of 65, you see that old picture of KFC? He was 65 years at that time, and he hit the recipe, and we see the chain off. And he had tried for some time. So maybe your fathers didn't do well with you. They didn't train you, they didn't speak into you, they didn't affirm you, and you also passed on the broken wounds that you had into your children. But you can still turn it around and be a good father and be intentional. Find accountable men that you can connect with. Accountable men. I wish I had time. I would share more about the 4 friends.
We're going to have another episode.
That every man should have. We need those 4 men. The women you do so. One of the 4 friends I always tell men to have is a lightning rod. A lightning rod is a man that you can go and share your burdens with and cry, and that person doesn't judge you. It's just like a lightning rod on the top of the house. They just pick the lightning from you, and they don't say, how could you do that? They just say, I feel you, I feel you. Those are one of the 4 friends of the men. But yes, you can do it, and you can as well get accountable men that you can do life with, and be real.
Share your information with them. You want to reach out to them. How can people find you? Yes,
well, we run our programs, and we also building a website, which should be out shortly. Is to be called rimug.org, and it will be having all our programs. But yes, maybe Sandra, you could share my number. They could still reach me on that number, and we have programs of intentional dads. We have programs of man enough, boys to men, and of course the strand of 3 for the couples out there who could be having unreconcilable differences. So we still, that's what we do, and I'm so honored to be here just to share about fatherhood.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Yes. Bye. Our question of the day is this: what factors do you think are contributing to the increased rates of fatherlessness today? Go ahead, let me know in the comment section why you think the rate of fatherlessness is much more now than it was a few years ago. What are the reasons? Go ahead, let me know in the comment section. I keep telling you, I love hearing from all of you. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for joining us today to discuss a topic that I think is very relevant and essential. Before we close out this video, I wanted to give a special shout out to the following people. Anita Electrax, thank you so much for being a part of this series. Noel, babe, my God, thank you so much. Bonga, wherever you are. Barbara, my gosh, you've been so supportive. Thank you so much for being a part of this, for sharing your feedback. Ronald as well for sharing your feedback. Mr. Ochan Innocent, thank you so much for being a part of this series. Violetta, now you even deserve like a badge or a t-shirt. My gosh, thank you so much to everybody who takes time out to watch, to share, to invite other people to the platform. I'm so humbled and grateful, which brings me to this. Next week we still continue the series Never Known the Love of a Father, which is basically talking about children who grow up fatherless and the effects that come from this. Next week I host a lovely guest who will continue to share insight on this topic. I cannot wait for you to see them, for you to listen to them, and for you to learn a thing or two. Otherwise, thank you so much. I hope you're okay. Keep safe, stay blessed. From me to you, much love and bye.